Yes, good evening and welcome back to the Friday night preview show live on the Seasiders podcast. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube or Twitter, it's great to have you on with us. It's a jam-packed show ahead of the big game between Blackpool and Fleetwood, which takes place tomorrow on Saturday, the 13th of March, 2021. We'll bring in our guests as usual because we've got the same lineup as hopefully Blackpool, and some fans might want them to pick tomorrow ahead of the team news at 2:00. But first, I'll bring in Tom. Tom, welcome back to the show, mate. How are things with you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Quite a busy week, but it's good to know it's Friday and good to be on the show.
Yeah, definitely a game we're all looking forward to, and a man who signed a permanent contract now with the Seasiders podcast. It's Sean. Sean, welcome back, mate.
Cheers, mate. Good to be back.
Yeah, definitely. And finally, the man who can't get away from the Seasiders podcast. He might be turning tangerine, but deep down he's a red. Ben, welcome to the Seasiders podcast, mate. How are you?
Very good. Didn't like that intro though, but I'm very good, Samuel. Thank you.
Samuel, wow. Okay, I like it. Right. The show is on the road, Ben, after that announcement. But we'll get straight into things because Derby, whatever you want to call it, a game tomorrow between Blackpool and Fleetwood, one that we always looked at when the fixtures were announced. But I guess, Tom, it's just a fixture that... Are you excited for it? Let me just ask you that one, really. I know the Derby kind of aspect around it due to kind of the geographical locations between the two sides, but is it a game that you're excited for tomorrow?
I don't know if excited is the right word. It's a very big match, and I'm probably more apprehensive about the whole game, to be honest with you. It's our home form's been a bit weird recently. Not the form, the performances. So tomorrow we need to start correct, and I'll probably be a bit more settled if we do start well. If we don't, then yeah, probably more nervous for the game to finish already.
As usual, Coach Critchley's in the comment section. Watching this, a tough game tomorrow, he says. Cod's in good form. I have an advantage of playing in front of no fans for many years. Nice comment.
I'd like to argue this, but it's true.
It's great. Sean, what are your thoughts ahead of the game? It's going to be a close contest, which we'll dive into more of the stats very shortly, but one that you're looking forward to, mate?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely going to be a close affair. I mean, you look at both sides, they're so evenly matched at the moment with the form that Fleetwood are in. As Tom says, it's all about setting the tone, really, and getting in there early and basically implementing our game onto Fleetwood before they have the chance to do the same to us. So, yeah, it'll be a really tight affair and one I'm looking forward to.
Ben, a game which you've said is big for Blackpool in terms of where they want to hopefully go this season, in terms of the playoffs, hopefully. But what are your thoughts ahead of the game tomorrow?
Yeah, I always say it's a bigger game for us than it is for you, but this time I think it's probably a bigger game for you than it is for us because you're chasing the playoffs. You're a very good side. I think you've got some good players. Jerry Yates, I think, is superb. I think he's a goal scorer. I think he works tirelessly for the cause, and he's probably a fan's dream because he works hard for the team. He doesn't mind getting his shirt dirty and he'll get stuck in. You've got a very good midfield. I think Dougal gave me nightmares for a couple of good months after his performance. I don't think he's actually hit the levels of that performance since, ever since I set calling the Great Wall of China. But it's a good game, two good sides. Blackpool will be up there come the end of the season. And I'm very much looking forward to the game. And hopefully Fleetwood can go there and give them a good game because I think we've gone there with fear in the last few games. And last year at Bloomfield Road, Joey Barton lost us at the game. I think Simon Grayson mentioned that in his press conference. And the year before, Blackpool deserved to win. And the year before that, it was... Fleetwood probably should have won that game, but Blackpool scraped through. So hopefully we finally get the edge of a Blackpool because it could be 5 straight wins for Blackpool at Bloomfield Road over us, and we don't want that.
I guess I'll stay with you, Ben. I guess with 3 wins on the bounce and after kind of a shaky start with Wilesy coming in, all the COVID stuff, and Grayson taking the reins at the club, but 3 straight wins, and from what I've seen, 3 good performances, and thoroughly deserved those wins.
Yeah, Lincoln was a very good win. I thought we were superb. We pressed and we got in the faces. Cam's got a goal. Jed Garner was terrific getting his goal. Shrewsbury was showing a different style. Obviously, the sun was in the keeper's eye the first. I think it was important we scored first. And we got that goal and that changed the game. I thought they lost their heads. And then Gillingham, it was a penalty that decided it. But I thought we should have won the game anyway. We hit the bar, I think, twice. We had good chances. But again, Blackpool's going to be an even tougher test. We have to go there and be at our best. Because if we're not at our best, Blackpool will beat us. It's simple as that. And because like I say, I think Sean said it before we came on, maybe Vassell needs 2 or 3 chances to score. Jerry Yates needs 1 because he's clinical, 12 goals this season in the league. He's an unbelievable acquisition at this level. So it's important that we take our chances while we have the top. And I know this sounds crazy, but high winds in Blackpool right now, the wind and the weather could play a huge part in tomorrow's fixture going either way.
Yeah, there was worries, wasn't there, Sean? I think you tweeted that if there's a downpour, and with recent game against Doncaster that called off due to heavy downpours 2 hours before kickoff, it was a slight concern. But you must admit the weather on the Fylde Coast today and tomorrow looks decent. So it all looks like it's going to go ahead, which is good for us. But Sean, coming to you, mate, and that's similar to Ben, really. You look at Fleetwood's form, especially last 3 games. You've been to a few games yourself. I think the Accrington game for the paper you're working for it, and I guess you actually look at them and you do think they're quite a solid team, but it's just that the chances, isn't it, that they can maybe have 3 chances to score that goal in the 4th attack. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a really tactical game tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah, I think obviously we've got our own sort of stereotypes of what Grayson's football is, but I think he's more adaptable at Fleetwood. I think that generally they've looked more dynamic in their play and not simply one-dimensional. I think that Accrington game was a turning point really for me in terms of Grayson's start there. It was a case that when Mulgrew has gone off and when Mulgrew's not been in the games anymore over recent times, I think they've improved quite a lot because they were worrying about the lack of pace at the back. Obviously, we've had similar concerns with Jordan Thornley. And that was a big plus for them. Obviously, Wes Burns hasn't even been in the side when Donasian's played. There's that quality on the bench now because I think the strength in depth is a difference between the 2 sides, really, when you think about who can come on and make an impact off the bench, and Wes Burns is there to do that for Fleetwood. But as I say, I think it's all about the midfield battle. I think we'll switch to a 4-3-3. Fleetwood have also got a 3-5-2, and you've got Camps, Rossiter, and Dan Batty, who are, for me, one of the best midfield threes in the league. They sort of play off each other perfectly. So it's all about having the advantage over that midfield 3 if Blackpool want to take the points. But as Ben said before, it's the quality up top for me. And I think that Kyle Vassell has struggled with the chances that he's had. He's been put through a few times where you think, had they still got Ched Evans or if Paddy Madden was playing more often, they'd be putting those away. And it's something that they obviously have to deal with, but it means they have to create a lot more chances. And I don't think they're going to be able to have the chance to do that against our defence.
Yeah.
Interesting comments. And Tom, I'll come to you. You're looking at their results gone away to Lincoln. Lincoln, I don't think we're at full strength, but still fantastic for Fleetwood to go there and pick up all 3 points. But talking that Sean's comment, Tom, I guess it's going to be another game where the midfield, whoever comes out top in that midfield, goes and wins the game tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. He's mentioned the 3, and Batty's been in fine form since he joined in, I think, late January, wasn't it? Grayson seems to got the best out of him, and he's sort of a player to watch tomorrow. And depending on who we start midfield and what system we start, it was a bit like the away game. We had to control the midfield and take our chances when they come, and I think that'd be very much that again tomorrow. We know how good our defence can be. I think we'll maybe make one change. We'll go on to team news a bit later, but in terms of the back 4. And we do limit teams, so my concern is if we don't control the midfield, then we're in for a hard game personally. But the midfield is versus 1 tomorrow, and I'm not sure who we're going to start to control that 3.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Just a bit later down the show, if you want to get your teams in, we've had a few people send them in to us beforehand, and we'll get them on the screen. But if you've got your predicted 11 or the 11 you want to start, do leave them in the comments section, and we'll get them up. Just a quick comment here. Stephen said Poole now seem to have a knack of still picking up points when they don't play well. And Sean, I guess that's just a bit of a theme really at Blackpool, that we've played really well in games, not picked up points, especially at the start of the season, I thought. But now we just seem to be that bit more determined, a bit more grit between our teeth, and that's seen us pick up points, drop points, especially against Wimbledon. But in other games, we've looked really solid, and we've got those players going forward, as Ben says, to really put pressure on teams and score goals in those vital moments.
Yeah, I think it's a lot about tempo, really. When you think about the amount of intensity that's in our game, we can't keep that up every single week in, week out with the schedule that we've got. So it's important that when we're not at it, let's say, with the tempo. I think against Wimbledon, we were a bit surprised by the intensity of their play and how well they played on the ball. I think we were kind of hoping to just sit off a bit and rest when we could, and then just hit them with intensity. But it's just not something that came about because of how well Wimbledon played. But as long as we've got that energy back against Fleetwood, I think it's not enough to just have the quality up top, because I think you need the energy in midfield, or you can quite easily get overrun. So it's important that we are on it against Fleetwood. I think we can sort of allow ourselves to just have the quality against Wimbledon, not particularly be fully 100%. And be able to not lose. And I think that's why he made the changes in that game than opposed to another game. But we have to be bang on it, else Fleetwood can quite easily cause an upset.
Yeah, definitely. Ben, I'm going to bring it to you now and talk about Fleetwood and their season so far and the last few games. But looking at Fleetwood's record, 12 wins, 10 draws, 12 defeats, 46 points picked up. That's an average of 1.35 points a game. Currently sat 14th in League One. A few weeks ago, Ben, when we were talking, you were a bit concerned, weren't you, that if we actually don't pick up results, we could easily end up in the relegation battle and fight. But what they've done with those 3 wins on the bounce, picking up 9 points, has given that bit of a boost. And it's what you want heading into a kind of a local derby.
Absolutely. And I always said that I thought we were in it. And if you said we weren't, I would have, I think you're lying. But I always thought we needed to lose maybe another 3 or 4 in a row, because the good thing was we were drawing games. We weren't losing every week. We were drawing games. And I think that's what happened with Fleetwood and Blackpool last season. When Blackpool went on that awful run, the only reason they weren't down there, I think they drew loads of games that probably just kept them in the game. And, then when Blackpool were winning, we were drawing. So it was a weird situation at the time. But going back to this season, it was important that we got a couple of wins back to back, and that changes your season really. And we're probably about 5 points from safety now, so it's a huge result, and hopefully that we can back it up on Saturday, Sam.
Yeah, definitely. And Tom, I'll come to you next, mate, if you're ready for it. But yeah, you're looking at Fleetwood's form and going to Lincoln and picking up points. Shrewsbury going there and winning 2-0. Actually, Fleetwood's away form is impressive. I say impressive. It's okay picking up nearly a point a game and stuff, but you've got to actually be a bit of a threat, haven't you? That if they can go to tough places like Shrewsbury and Lincoln, and pick up points, that we actually do have to be on the top of our game tomorrow.
Yeah, we discussed with Ben sort of just before they played Lincoln. He said he's never so confident that they're going to lose a game in all of his life. Sort of Fleetwood turn up.
Tom.
Yeah. Fleetwood turn up and go 2-0 up and control the game, and they got hit with a really good pass by their Lincoln goalkeeper and a really smart finish. So, I mean, they conceded probably a goal which they could have stopped, but to take that away, they're 2-0 up against Lincoln. Yes, they're in, not the best form Lincoln in terms of where they were, but to go there, then win again away, and then pull off another win at the weekend, confidence builds success, and they'll be bang up for tomorrow. Not only will they want to beat Blackpool for the first time, but they're finding their feet under Grayson a bit more in terms of the midfield, and Vassell's scoring goals. He might need chances, and we don't give many away, but he is still scoring goals, and that will give him some confidence going into tomorrow as well. So we have to be awake from that first whistle, which we haven't been sort of in recent weeks, or we will get punished tomorrow.
Yeah, Sean, coming to you for the next one. 15 prior to the 3 wins that have just come for Fleetwood. It was only 1 win in 15, which was, again, this is why Ben was in a bit of a panic on social media and saying that you potentially get drawn into a battle. But you actually look at what they've turned around, the form. But does form go out the window in these types of matches? Is it just a matter of teams not trying to play the game and not the occasion? I know there's no fans, so it might be a little bit easier. I don't know what your views on that.
Well, I think the one team in these sorts of Blackpool Fleetwood games that has gone about it that way has been Fleetwood, and they've lost every time because they've done that. You need to approach it professionally. I think Neil Critchley's going to approach it in that manner, and Grayson is as well, because he did exactly that for us when we were against Fleetwood when Barton was in charge. Barton was sort of playing on the motivation side of things when it comes to the game, but at the end of the day, if you've not implemented your system correctly and you're not doing the right things in the game, it doesn't matter how hyped up you are for a game. It's about doing the right things at the right moments and be disciplined. And I think that both sides will be quite disciplined in their approaches. So that's why it's really, really hard to call this one.
Yeah, I look at Fleetwood's goals against, only conceded 30. That's just 0.8 8-8 per game, which is, gotta say, it's not a bad defensive record, Tom, and something that Blackpool are going to have to keep banging, knocking on the door, keep plugging away to try and get that goal, because it's Fleetwood, especially if they're going to play potentially 3/5 at the back. We've just got to be patient, haven't we, in our approach tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm going to sound really negative here because the last two comments have been relatively negative, but I think the issue is, and we've discussed it before, we haven't found that formula where we're banging on the door constantly all games, or that goal is going to come. I think we had that against Rochdale just before Kai scored, and we were in the box quite a lot, and we were having a few shots, and eventually the ball went in the net, and then after that we allowed them to control the game again. So if we can keep the ball and keep the tempo in our favour tomorrow, then eventually I think we'll grind them down and get that goal. Just like I said before, though, if we don't start and we let them play like we didn't predict against Wimbledon, then, like I said, it's either going to be a really end-to-end game, or it could just be one of those games, a bit like their game at Highbury, where that one chance we got, and then it was more of a tactical battle, in my opinion. So we need to start better tomorrow.
Yeah, Ben, what are your thoughts going into the game? I know we've kind of briefly spoke about it, but when you look at the form of both sides, it should be a bit of a derby thriller, but we know these occasions have been quite nervy, and a lot of the games have finished either 1-0 or a kind of a couple of goals that separate two sides. But what are your thoughts going into the game?
Yeah, I think Grayson will be up for it. He's going back to his old employer. You took my job, I want to beat you, which is always going to be nervy. I think Barton lost us a lot of the games, not by his tactics, just by the way his press conferences. And I always dreaded listening to him. And the last one that he did was, I think when we played him at home 0-0, he learned from that, which was always good to see. But going into this game, two good sides in form. Pressure's on Blackpool, in my opinion. So just hopefully that we can get in the face and just give them a good game. That's all I want.
Yeah, I'm just looking at a comment here, actually. I don't know if any of you, especially Tom and Sean or anyone in the chats, have Blackpool had a 0-0 this season in the league? I'll leave that out there if anyone knows the correct answer to those two. I think I've got it right. But
we drew, was Oxford 0-0?
Oxford, yeah, one of them, yeah. And there's one game away from home against one of Fleetwood's biggest rivals in the Northwest.
Aki.
Yeah.
There we go. So, John, hopefully we've answered that. Obviously, games at the start of the season in that competition.
Just want to say as well, Fleetwood on their Twitter bragging earlier about a penalty shootout. We drew that game 0-0 as well. So,
No. We don't claim that.
You won 5-4 on Peds.
Biggest win in the world, mate. Give our Europa League spot.
We'll keep talking about Fleetwood, and then we'll come on to Blackpool, because obviously they're the opposition this weekend, and we'll want to try and inform as many Blackpool fans as possible about the opponents tomorrow. But Ben, coming back to you, mate, if you look at a star player for you this season, I guess you look at Callum Camps, 11 goals in 34 appearances in all competitions. Hit a bit of a kind of a stumbling block, didn't he, around Christmas? Probably after the Blackpool game, really. I think Dougal only emptied his pockets in February. But when you actually look at his form and his influence in games, he's going to be one of the players that you look to really fire home the 3 points tomorrow.
Yeah. And I came on before the last game, didn't I, in December, seeing how good he was, and how he's fiery for fun, and he's going to give Blackpool problems. Not going to do that again. Learned my lesson from last time, so I'm going to say because I think I've learned by saying when I've said a player's been bad, they've been good, and when I've called a player good, and they've been bad. But it was good to see him get his goal the other day. It was good movement. I think maybe what happens with players, maybe the ball doesn't just quite fall for them, or they don't get the rub of the green that they were slightly getting at the start of the year. So he's still been playing well. He's been putting in a good defensive display. So if he can be at it, Fleetwood are at it, and you see that, and it's like, we either need him scoring, Vassell scoring, or Madden scoring. It's simple as that. And if one of those scores, we'll have a better chance of winning the game. And, it probably, if he only scored, 3 in the last 20 games, for a midfield player, you don't maybe see that as a bad return, not a good return. But because of the levels here to the start of the year, where he was scoring a goal every game and a half, I think Joe Denny's going to get 40 goals a season at this rate. But he needs to be at it. He's done it in derbies before, against Bury, for Rochdale, and against Oldham. So I'd love to see him score tomorrow, but I think it's Blackpool's game to win, unfortunately.
Big shout there, Tom. What do you think to Ben's stuff there? And again, Callum Campsey's a player that has just seemed to find his form now with Grayson looking at maybe 3 midfield. And I said it's going to be a key battle in that midfield area. But do you think Campsey's the one to watch, or any other player that you think for Fleetwood?
I think we mentioned his name earlier. He is come in and is just a level. Is a bit one of those players, a bit like Dougal and Stewart when we first saw them. You think, why is he playing at Fleetwood or why is he playing at Blackpool? So they've got a few players, Rossiter and Patty, that they're probably not names that we all know or have seen play. So it's one to look out for tomorrow for sure. And it's tough to say. It's Blackpool's game to win because of our home form. Don't get me wrong, but. I'm trying to be more optimistic, but if we can play up to the standards that we want to, like Sean alluded to earlier, with the tempo, and we're not lethargic, and let the other teams control the ball, when we start coming up against good players, they will utilise what we've given them in the past. So it's our game to start tomorrow, and we just need to go at it for 90 minutes and settle the game early doors. If not, we've seen against Wimbledon and Crewe in the past sort of 2 home matches that it isn't going to pan out the way we want it.
You've got to be beating teams like Fleetwood. That's all I mean by my comment. Like, you're a good side. You should be fighting for the top 6. You've beaten Portsmouth. You went to Peak with the only team there to win. Unbelievable record. That's what I mean. I'm not trying to play mind games. I hope it works. But no. Like I say, Blackpool, if they're serious about it, they should be beating Fleetwood.
No, well, you're right. We should be beating Fleetwood and we should be beating Wimbledon. We should probably be edging Crewe. So my point stands that
I agree, mate.
Massive chances missed. Camps is decent playing. Like we did speak last time, and it's the same this time around. If Dougal can control the midfield or whoever starts tomorrow, then we don't allow them to play, and then we let our players do what they want. But we seem to focus on worrying about them rather than doing what we want. I don't know how you feel, Sean.
Yeah, I think that's the important thing is sort of our own game needs to be implemented onto them, as we said before. I think with Callum Camps, a lot of his work off the ball is kind of unnoticed as well, but he keeps bringing Danny Andrews into play. Danny Andrews is a player I really like down the left. He's more defensively minded than going forward, but Callum Camps opens up a lot of space for the wide players, and I think that's where the difference will be in this one. If we go 4-3-3 and we at least balance out the midfield and keep it an even scrappy contest in the midfield, then the difference is going to be in the wide areas, because if you look at the 2 players that Fleetwood will probably play, it'll probably be Donati and Andrews, and they're both more defensively minded. And if you've got, say, Mitchell or Kai, and you've got CJ Hamilton on the right-hand side, then they're both going to be pushing them back, and that's where the difference comes, because we'll have an out ball in the midfield once we've won possession back, whereas Fleetwood won't have that if we've got the 2 wide men deeper and they're not able to push forward and have the freedom. So I think that's where the difference comes in the game. So that's where I think the balance is where it'll be in our favour.
Yeah, so you say if we go 4-3-3 to match them, but I don't know. I just feel the more we've gone 4-3-3 this season, it's only worked on the odd occasion. How do you think that would work with an experienced midfield 3 like they have been the last few away games? And they'll be comfortable with it, and we possibly won't be, because that third midfielder hasn't started for a while, or Hamilton potentially will start and hasn't played either. So would you rather us go 4-4-2, or would you rather see a 4-3-3?
I don't think Ellis Sims is disciplined enough to play in a game like this on his off-the-ball work to play in a 4-4-2. I think that as well, I would probably drop Virtue, and I know obviously Virtue's been a really good player for us in recent weeks, but I think you need discipline in the central midfield 3. And if you think about what Virtue offers, most of the time it's when we're pushing further forward, and when we're wanting that playmaker to really be a box-to-box player that we can, when we're counter-attacking, we can play the ball to them and we know they'll drive us up the pitch. Whereas if we're just covering the spaces initially, I think that Dougal, Stewart and Ward are 3 of the most intelligent players we've had in a long time. And I think the good thing about them is they set up and they play in a way that they're not needing to go in for the risky tackles. They're not needing to go in for that scrap, because their positional sense is so good that they can just intercept the ball before we get into that situation. I think Virtue can run a bit ragged sometimes in the midfield area, and then we're turning it into a real scrap. And I don't want it to become that, because that's when we start to lose the game.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And we talked about Vassell Bennett a little bit. Obviously, he came in the transfer window on loan from Rotherham. What have you made of him? Obviously, I don't think Blackpool fans would have really seen too much for him due to kind of the boycotting, but he seems to be a player that, and I've seen him on a few occasions. Sean's seen him, I think, once or twice at Highbury this season. But he seems like this player that works hard, isn't he? And with Madden, do you think that it's either one or the other with those two? That they're very similar, aren't they, in terms of both want to have a battle, both want to be getting into the box on crosses. Do you think they're kind of both similar, and that's why Madden's been on the bench?
Yeah, they both like to work hard, don't they? And they'll run themselves ragged into the ground for you, and that's what I love about them both. Madden's probably better in front of goal than Vassell. Vassell obviously does need that probably extra chance, and Paddy does, but they're both very good. I prefer Madden, really. I think they're both good together, because if Vassell can run himself ragged, probably if it is for me is Madden gets too deep a lot of the time and it annoys me. So if he can stay further up the pitch, he can cause Blackpool problems. He can pin that back four back of Blackpool.
Yeah, definitely can. Let's talk about Blackpool. We've talked about Fleetwood for the first half an hour, which has been a great insight into kind of their stats and how their season's going so far. Currently 14th in the league table. 4 more games than Blackpool have played 34 compared to Blackpool's 30. But I guess, Tom, coming at you, looking at our recent form a little bit more, obviously beat MK Dons, which was heard it's maybe not the best performance in terms of stats as well, but again, you've got to go there and shut opposition down and get the win. And obviously Wimbledon as well, Sims scoring the opener with Palmer equalising late on. Hearing that buzz on my phone last Saturday, I thought it was a second goal for us, but no, it was an equaliser. But when you look at our recent form going into this game, you've just got to be confident that we are going to get that result. I mean, the team seems to be gelling more. They seem to understand each other better, which I always thought would come into fruition later in the season after 19, 21 players coming in and staff stuff. So what are your thoughts of kind of our form going into this game, Tom?
Yeah, so from the last 6, we won 3 in a row, then we drew 2, which was the Wimbledon and Crewe, and then we've just obviously picked up a win. The form for me it does bother me clearly, because I want us to see us win games, and it's good that we're grinding out results. So I'm trying to put a positive spin on it. What I don't like at home, more importantly, is the way we tend to be starting games at the moment. And I just think the saving grace is when we play against Peterborough and we play against Hull, we've played those matches and we've not let them had a sniff. And for me, that's massive positive. The whole game when we scored in the last minute, and Portsmouth when we reduced them to nothing, were 2 of my favourite performances this season. But the more recently, we seem to let the opposition have the ball a lot more, and I don't know where that's come from. I don't know if it's we're tired or we're potentially playing the odd player in the wrong position. I'm not sure, but we joke now, but last week on the pod we were very confident where we'd start against Wimbledon, we'd score 2 or 3 goals and we'd control the game. Or from kickoff, 15, 20 minutes or 15, 20 seconds even, they all pushed up. We were like, whoa, what's going on? And they start to play the ball on the floor. Pigott made it, or Pygott made it stick at the front. Controlled the ball. He was comfortable with our defenders, and when they had every opportunity, they could have scored 2 or 3. And I've said it all the time. I just don't need we don't need to see a start on the match like that. So the form is decent. I thought MK Dons we were very sloppy. I think again we let them have the ball. There was the odd time when we pressed, and when we pressed, opportunities came, and Embleton then pressed to get Kai to have the block to put Yates in, and it's a really good finish. Really good to see away from home. However, in my opinion, and we all know that Laird should have scored from sort of 7 or 8 yards, and they had a couple of one-on-ones which Maxwell's made an incredible save. So we are letting teams have opportunities, and we are letting them play the ball. So the form is decent, and if we can start playing better, the form's only going to get better. But if we start to let teams in like we have been and control the ball, we could lose games as well. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that's what I want to see from us more. That more consistent pressure. We've got a lot of games to play, I understand that, but we also have quite good players in the positions that are not playing currently that could come in. So I want to see us start tomorrow a lot better. I want to see us get into Fleetwood's faces, make them feel uncomfortable, and hopefully like Charlton, get an early goal and kick on from there and really start our season.
Yeah, Sean, before I come to you, just a comment from Dan that's on the screen. I'll read it out for those listening to the audio version. But he said maybe Stuart dropping a little bit deeper means they back themselves to let the other team have it and pick them off. And when you look at the MK Dons game, again, I'm going off soccer base with the stats here, so it could be changed, but I'll round it up and down. So 70% kind of possession, MK Dons to Blackpool's 30. But you look at MK Dons, it only had 1 shot on target, Blackpool had 2. MK Dons had 4 shots off target, 2 on Blackpool had 2 off target. So when you're looking at that, you've got to say Blackpool, 1, have been very good defensively. Yes, there's always going to be chances in games, but 2, coming back to the way the team playing, do you think the introduction of CJ Hamilton's had a bit of an impact on that, knowing that Blackpool have got the pace to really, really counter teams?
Well, first of all, with the MK Dons game, I think regardless of the people we had on the pitch, I think you should sit off MK Dons because they are quite slow and passive with their possession. Yep. They want to try and break you down by drawing you out and trying to hit you in behind when they've had that possession. They're happy to pass it around the back and not really do much with it. I think dangerous possession-wise, I only saw the extended highlights, but they probably had 1 or 2 chances to perhaps get a goal, but I think in the long run, that's the right way to approach MK Dons. So I think that's a separate issue. But I think with the Wimbledon game in particular, that was the one where there was a bit of concern because I think we were surprised by how well they played on the ball. I think Longman particularly played really well, and he sort of dragged us back, if anything. And I think there was a gap in the midfield, and I think Stewart was quite isolated because they saw Kevin Stewart as our out ball, and they had 2 men pressing on him at all times. He was really isolated in that game. And that's where I think perhaps playing the 4-3-3 gives you that extra out ball. If they are going to double up on someone, say they double up on Stewart, then that's going to leave Dougal free. If they double up on Dougal, that's going to leave Ward free. It kind of works like that. Whereas if you've just got a 4-4-2, especially when Virtue's quite out of position quite a lot of the time because he's such a box-to-box player that he's sort of wanting to be all over the place all the time, it left Stewart isolated with possession. So I don't think really it's going to be concerning against Fleetwood because I'm pretty convinced we will play a 4-3-3 because he does like to match up teams, as he said. So, yeah, CJ Hamilton definitely makes a difference. And as I said before, if we can push their 2 wing-backs further back up the pitch, then CJ's going to have the space in behind to run into. So he's that outball that we need.
Definitely. Well, I'll bring this section forward a little bit, actually. I was going to do it later on in the show, but we'll look at kind of teams that and your kind of the ones we've been given in starting 11 for Blackpool. And Ben, you can give yours in a second. I'll give you time to think about what your Fleetwood 11 would be tomorrow, Ben. But Tom, you've been behind the scenes working hard, and I'll bring your team up first, and I'll let you kind of describe it. Apologies if half of our faces are missing off the screen. But we'll come up your team, Tom, quickly. You've gone for a 4-4-2 with Blackpool. Maxwell, back four, Gabriel, Husband, Ballard and Garbutt, Mitchell, Ward, Dougal, CJ in midfield, and Yates and Sims up top. Just give us a kind of a rough or a short reason why you've gone for that team.
Yeah, so I made this quite early on in the week, and I was contemplating who I'd play, and I think I questioned whether we would go 4-3-3, but I stuck with 4-4-2 just because I generally think we're quite effective with it. So I'm not going to change my mind, but if I was to make any change, it would be Sims coming out for another centre midfielder. But the reason I chose this team, because I think we need to play every player that's best in their position. I think Gabriel is more effective than Turton in terms of giving that attack an outlet, although Turton steady Eddie, sorry to add a Chisholm in there, but he offers a lot more recently, and when we played against Portsmouth, he was exceptional, and I think Hamilton and him can maybe drift between each other. The only concern is, like me and Sean said last week, is if we play Hamilton, do we need Gabriel? Because he does the attacking, but for me, you've got to play him, Garbutt, for that set piece outlet. And although his pass succession and his passing on Tuesday wasn't fantastic, he's still an incredible sort of player to have in the team. Husband and Ballard have to start because I don't trust Thornley to play with Ballard. Simple as that. I think Thornley's a decent centre back, but he's questioning and second guessing himself a lot of the time, and he doesn't move forward when the players move forward. Now, for those in the chat that watched Tuesday, yes, they did have a few chances, but if you noticed, every single time they're offside, the whole back four moved forward as one, and they did that so many times seamlessly. It was just really good to see, and we didn't do that against Wimbledon and Crewe, and that's how they got their goals. I start Hamilton because he came on Tuesday, and I think he's started a game and come off twice now, and we've been screaming to have him all season, so why not? Mitchell, for me, is much more effective than Kai. The reason I start Ward and Dougal was because I want better ball possession in the middle, and Dougal will be that playmaker. Ward will do all the running. He had 83% pass succession from the right wing on Tuesday, and for me, we're sloppy in midfield at the moment in terms of giving away the ball. So
Mhm.
Ward starts, and then Sims and Yates to give us that structure of the team. So I agree with Sean though, because Sims off the ball work is not great. So you probably do bring in another centre mid in, but that's the team I would have picked at the start.
Sean, I'll come to yours, and then Ben, if you want to give your Fleetwood team after Sean's finished, and then we'll go through the rest that have been sent in. Sean, what would you go for? Just that change midfield, put an extra body in there.
Yeah, I'd go 4-3-3. Obviously, I'd bring have Gabriel at right back and Garbutt at left back, and then you've got, as Tom said, I don't trust Thornley really. It's not even a case of not trusting Thornley; it's more a case of I trust Husband more than Thornley, which is a different argument, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
As Tom says, ball retention and composure in the central midfield area is what we need. It can't turn into a scrap, because at the end of the day, Jordan Rossiter is a ball winner. He's going to eat that up, that sort of battle. He'll love that. We can't play into their hands. And if you've got three players in Dougal, Stewart and Ward, which are composed and intelligent on the ball and also off it, I just think that you have the run of the midfield, and you don't allow Dan Batty to have that box-to-box energy that he showed so much in recent weeks. It just completely eradicates Fleetwood's threats in the midfield. And then, as I said before, I'd have Mitchell on the left and I'd have CJ on the right in a 4-3-3 and Yates up top, because if you're pushing back to Nassi and Andrews, who are defensively minded players, so the minute they think there's a threat in behind, their natural instinct is going to be to drop a yard deeper. And as soon as that happens, the outball's not there for Fleetwood. So that's my team.
Ben, just before I come to you, mate, Marcus Mackay's left a comment in here saying, what's the Fleetwood fan's opinion of James Husband? He was there for a season on loan. Was it Joey Barton's first season or second? I can't remember which one it was now. But what are your thoughts on what were your thoughts on James Husband, should I say?
Steady. Always, he was never a 9 out of 10, but he was never less than a 6. So he was either a 7 or an 8. He's perfect if you want. If you had 11 James Husbands in the team of his ability, you're finishing probably 12th or 13th in the league.
Yeah.
But if you have better players around, which I think he does at Blackpool, I think they can challenge for the top 6. But no, I liked him. I thought he was quality. He had a good free kick on him. I do prefer Danny Andrew, if I'm honest with you, just for that long range strike and the way he can bomb forward. But he's still a very good fullback, really.
Yeah, it definitely is. So how would you, if you were Simon Grayson, well, a younger version of Simon Grayson with hair, as many people have said, what would your team be? Do you pack the midfield and leave one up top away from home, or do you keep it as it is as from the other games?
Well, I'm not going to do a Simon Grayson where he speaks and with a bit of a stutter, but no, I'd go for the back three. I think it's worked well. I would play Hill, Connolly, and Holgate, 3 recognised centre half. It's good that we haven't got Mulgrew, which what you want in kind of a bigger game, really, that you want to win. But, those back 3 have done well. Cairns in goal, I think, he's made mistakes, but he's still one of the best goalkeepers in League One. He's the save he made the other day was outrageous. It was unbelievable. I would play Burns at right wing back. I just think he gives you that attacking threat. And I think that's why he didn't play the other day, just to give us him a rest for today. So I'd be very surprised if Burns didn't play at right wing back. Andrew at left wing back. And then my midfield 3 would be Roster, Batty and Camps. Those midfield 3 have been brilliant of late. The only problem is, could he get a bit leggy? He played a lot of minutes of late, But, it's still been unbelievable. And my front 2 would be Madden and Vassell, hopefully. So I think I had a little heart attack when I saw Madden's joining Stockport County.
What was that about? We've got a comment in there from... obviously, Tim, my dad. What do you know what those rumours were? If you don't know, it's completely fine. But do you reckon it was just a rumour?
And I looked at it and I thought, no way. And I believed it at first. And I thought, more I looked into it, I thought, can't happen. And then, I don't think it'll be happening. I think he'll play tomorrow at some stage. But it's not like he's been frozen out or anything, really. Or, he's come back from an illness. He's had to work his way into the side. He's not like he's lacked minutes. So, Garner scored. He stayed in the team. It was simple as that. So, before that, Madden was playing every minute of every game. He was captain. So I would like to see Madden and Vassell together, really. But Garner's done well. Saunders needs to probably get a few minutes in him to, do well. But it's going to be interesting to see how Fleetwood line up tomorrow, Sam.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be whatever we see at 2:00, we'll all be trying to work out the systems that both managers have picked. Just a few comments before we read some more teams that have been sent in. Sims needs to look at videos of Medine holding the ball up and keeping it so CJ can go in the pockets. Completely agree, and he's only a young player as Sims, so we've got to give him time to develop. Again, with teams coming up here, John's got his team in, which is great. So keep them coming in, and we'll come back to the kind of teams that have come in. Blackpool Discord, which you've got, Tom, they've gone for kind of a 4-3-3 formation. Garbutt, Husband, Ballard, and Gabriel at the back with Maxwell in goal. Stewart in the holding midfield role. Dougal and Ward. Again, probably very similar, minus maybe Yates, you would say. Kai and Hamilton on the wings with Yates up top. Great team there. Callum, who got this in on Twitter, he's gone for a diamond in midfield. 4 back, Garbutt, Husband, Ballard, Gabriel. It seems to be quite a theme, that, doesn't it, Sean? And I guess this time, it's probably the back 4 you would go for, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because you've got the best of both when it comes to Garbutt and Gabriel. I think Gabriel's now proved everyone wrong in terms of his defensive ability. So you can trust in both of them to do both, but also to push us up the field when we need to. And as I say, if you're playing a 4-3-3 or you're playing a 4-4-2, either way, you've got basically 2 attacking outlets on each wing, and it overloads teams that just can't simply handle it.
Yeah, carry on. Stuart Holding, I guess it would be 4-4-2 with Virtue being the more attacking player. Mitchell and Hamilton on the wings, and Sims and Yates up top. Joe Athers, he got this one in on Twitter as well, so thank you for sending these in. He's gone for a 4-2-3-1. Same back 4, but back 5, should we say? Virtue and Dougal, Holding, Kai, Mitchell and Hamilton, the 3 behind Jerry Yates, the lone striker. John, who got this one in, Blackpool versus Cods, thanks for the title. Gone for a 4-4-2, Ward on the right, Mitchell on the left. Same back 4 again, common theme in Blackpool's fans' selections with Yates and Sims up top. These are great. Johnny Burke, he's got one in. I guess it's the same team, isn't it? No, same team. Great. It's good. What's good, Tom, about this is that fans are actually agreeing with teams, aren't they? They've got a stable back 4 there, and as fans, I think that's something that you want in a club, isn't it? Some stability, especially in that back lineup.
Yeah, I think we know our back 4. I know why. Critchley changes it, clearly fatigue, etc. And does do a half decent job in defence, but he just doesn't give us that extra bit of special football which Gabriel was adding. I just going back to the team, really. I don't unless there's something up, I can't see Dougal, and I don't want Dougal being dropped again. As Tim just said, it's like 4 games in a row now, and I just. The reason I'm a bit frustrated about it, and I'm not saying Stuart's done a bad job, because he's head and shoulders one of the best centre midfielders in the league. Virtue leaves us quite vulnerable, and as Sean's alluded to, why we need that third midfielder, because he is so box to box, and sometimes it's just left a big gap in midfield and they've bypassed us like we're not there. So yeah, it's now 4 or 5 games in a row, and just Dougal needs to start for me, just because he was really poor after COVID, and quite rightly so. It's obviously a horrible disease, a virus. Yeah. Sorry, he came back for 2 more matches after that, and the game just before he's been dropped, he got back to where he was beforehand, and that's why I think tomorrow he needs to start. Him coming on with 10-15 minutes to go, he's just not being effective. So he needs to start tomorrow and get some energy back in that midfield.
Definitely. Reader Dan BFC said if he's not back for tomorrow, he'll be back on Tuesday. The original Burton game would have been the first one he would have been rested for, but we can't get home games on due to the weather, so had a knock-on effect. Someone else come here, up the mighty pool. They said think Gretson should start when he's fully fit. Great options to have at the back for Neil Critchley and Blackpool. Someone saying why not 3-5-2 worked perfectly. I can't remember what game it was now. Did we try it? Was it? Brighton away in the FA Cup, wasn't it? In terms of that formation coming into play. A question here, I'll come to you, Sean. Do you think that he plays Turton because he trusts him more defensively and because of Hamilton in front of him? Good question there, Josh.
I mean, he must do. I don't. I don't see the difference defensively between Turton and Gabriel anymore. And I think Turton isn't that composed in possession. He's very one-dimensional with how he plays. He likes to just boot it long to Hamilton, whether he's available or not. And I think Gabriel's smarter and more adaptable in the way he plays. So potentially, I think he does probably trust him more. And I think perhaps he's more of like a help in terms of communication-wise and things like that, and leadership-wise, especially when we're making a lot of changes in the team. But I don't get Turton playing ahead of Gabriel. I don't think I ever will. Gabriel's our number 1, and he needs to be for the rest of the season if we want to get into the playoffs.
Tom, you speak first, mate. Go on.
Yeah, no. So his past success in the past 2 games has been in the 60s and late 50s. And that is, Garbett was 53 on Tuesday, which he didn't have his best game, but we know what Garbett can do. But his like Sean said, his football and brain is just not there in comparison to what Gabriel offers. And Gabriel loves. Not only does he now love a tackle, when he's got that opportunity just to absolutely clatter someone and win the ball, he'll just let him know he's there, not just by kicking the ball out, but by sliding into the ball. And what he's offered attacking wise is phenomenal. And I'll just use Portsmouth as an example, where he found himself in their box about 5 or 6 times. 2 minutes later, he was back defending. So there's nothing that Gabriel can't do that Turton can do. And I completely agree with Sean.
Yeah, I've seen that Nottingham Forest have had some financial difficulties this week. So if a Nottingham Forest board want to sell Gabriel to us on a small fee, I'm sure Blackpool fans would really appreciate this one. We've got one more team to bring up, which we'll show shortly. But David Jackson's gone for Maxwell, Gabriel, Ballard, Husband, Garbett, same back 5, Stewart and Dougal. Stewart, Dougal, Kai, Virtue, Ward, and Yates. So I guess that looks like a 4-5-1, roughly around that. So thanks, David, for getting that one in. And finally, Liam, I don't know if his name was Dougal or just named it Dougal. He's gone for, he has left Dougal out, to be fair. Same back 5, Kai on the left, Virtue and Ward in midfield, CJ on the right, Sims and Yates up top. Tom, shaking your head there.
I get I know why Liam said it, because he wants goals from midfield, but that would just leave us very, very vulnerable. I think, in my opinion, leaving out Stewart or Dougal, or both of them, is just dangerous, in my opinion, when you've got that quality.
Yeah, definitely. But a new section there, and people say new, kind of adapted it a little bit. So we'll try and look to do that going forward. And great to see so many people send them in to Tom. So we'll look at doing that next weekend as well. Moving on to the managers section. Ben, I think if we were talking last time round, you'd be kind of maybe moaning that Joey Barton was winding up or trying to get at the opposition manager. But this time, slightly more reserved. And here's what Grayson's had to say, and I'll get your thoughts on it. He said there's a positive feeling around the place, and that comes with the good results and performances that we've been having. The players have been a joy to work with and have taken on board a lot of things that we've asked them to do. Things are looking encouraging for us. Players have got to keep working hard day in, day out, and keep doing the business in match day situations. And just finally, just one on the fixture. We want to build on the 3 results that we've obviously had an extra spice to now, because both teams, Blackpool and Fleetwood, are in good form. Both teams are in good positions in the league table, and both teams are probably looking just above them to see where they can finish at the end of the season. Ben, first to you, mate. So your thoughts on Grayson's pre-match comments there?
Well, I think there's a little bit of hypocrisy in there. I think last year, if I remember right, he said it's not a derby, it's just 2 teams that, I remember I actually watched the full interview last night, actually. And then, like yesterday, he was saying it was a derby. So it was an interesting one, though. But fair comments. He was in good spirits, and the players were in good spirits. You are when you've won 3 in a row. Like I say, we've started to get a settled back line now, and listening to what you, Tom, and Sean have just said, it is really good to see a settled team. When I think you remember, Sam, last year when Fleetwood went on a 12 game unbeaten run, I think it was the same team every game, barring maybe 1 or 2 players, and that just shows you how good it is. Can Blackpool do that going forward? I'm not so sure with the amount of games, but Fleetwood, we have 13 games left. We can maybe experiment now. I don't want to experiment tomorrow as soon as we're at 50 points, but it's a big game that I want to win. Simon Grayson, I liked his quotes. He was positive, and but like I say, you can be positive in a press conference, but you can't quite do it on the pitch. But I'd love to see him doing a Mourinho tomorrow, running down the touchline and and pointing to his head. But unfortunately, I just can't see. So I think Blackpool will win this game.
Yeah, just carrying on. I'll come to you, Sean. Next one. Grayson goes on to say the most important thing on Saturday is getting the 3 points. Excuse me, because if we can get those 3 points, it pushes us closer to the teams around us. If Blackpool win, it pushes them even closer to the playoff positions. He goes on to talk about Blackpool and his affiliations there, but now he says he's a Fleetwood Town head coach, and for me, it's the next game, and it's one that we want to win. Doesn't say I want to win, which I think kind of comes down to just trying to keep it low. Trying to tone it down a bit, isn't he? I'm sure deep inside, Sean, that he'll be wanting to go back to a team that got rid of him after a poor run of results and kind of show them what they're missing.
Yeah, I don't think Grayson really knows what I is, to be quite honest. The amount of different teams he's played for, he's managed around this area, but yeah, I think he's been quite level-headed since he's arrived, really, and I think his team looks a lot more adaptable than I expected it to be. I mean, the first half at Accrington in particular, they were really one-dimensional, and I was just like, this is exactly what we've come to expect from Grayson. But they quite quickly adapted to Accrington's style of play and changed it up, and they just looked like they're actually playing nice football. And I think that's where the difference will lie, I think, is whether they can keep that up or whether he wants to keep imposing that sort of game on a team that he knows is so well organised and has the quality that we have. So it'd be interesting to see whether he does try and match us up. I'm starting to think that perhaps he'll keep Danassian in instead of playing Wes Burns, because he's still got that in the back of his mind of wanting to be conservative. I think once you're a conservative manager, you're always going to be one, and he's always going to find little ways of still keeping that conservatism. I would go for it if I were him. I'd play Burns and I'd go at us, but I don't think he will.
Especially, I remember the game, obviously I was at the game at Highbury, and I remember just CJ having kind of Andrews in his pocket, just running behind him and not giving things up, and really putting the back line under pressure. So I think if Grayson has watched videos from the last game, I think that'll be a concern. Hence why I do believe he'll probably go for more of a defensive fullback, swing backs, whichever formation he goes for, maybe just to counter CJ. Well, come on, Tom, I'll come to you on the next one. It's Neil Critchley. He expects it to be quite a tight contest on Saturday. Obviously, this week marking a 4 years since kind of supporters were backing in. I think it was his first league game, wasn't it, for Blackpool? I think it was the Fleetwood match. He says, yep. I've always had a visual picture of my head of that first game in charge, which was away at Fleetwood back in March last year. Our supporters packed the away end and were in full voice all the way through the 90 minutes. With us being at home this weekend, I'm sure it would have been a fantastic atmosphere. We've had a good good home run recently. We obviously have liked the results to be slightly better in one of the past two matches. Those kind of situations are instances where players would have pulled up on strength of the supporters in the stadium, which can give you the extra 2% when you need it the most. Again, first of all, I'll give you comments, and two, it'll be a fixture that he wants to just get the first 3 points second lot of 3 points, should I say, against Fleetwood.
Yeah, it's just nice just him to talk about the fans a little bit and just sort of remind us that was his first game and he appreciated it and he still remembers it. And yeah, he, like I say this every week, he speaks really well, and I think he's adapting a lot more. And I criticised Critchley a lot at the start, but you've got to understand the amount of games we've actually lost after the poor run at the start of the season. We haven't lost at home since October. Whether that happens tomorrow or not, it is what it is. But we actually should give him a lot of credit for how quickly him and Calder would have got that team together. And he'll be keen to push us on, because I think we all know our expectations this season in terms of the squad we've got and how much money we've spent, and that is to be challenging for those playoffs. So he'll be desperate to get another victory and keep the run going.
Yeah, definitely. Sean, what are your thoughts on, one, we'll say Neil Critchley's first year in charge, and two, what he's had to say in his pre-match notes?
Yeah, similarly to Tom, it's the adaptability that's changed, and his awareness of. I know he always wanted to line up against opponents to sort of specifically play a game plan against every team, depending on how they suit up. But I think he was too keen to go full 100 on what he wants to do and achieve, and I think you have to gradually bring that in, especially when you've got such a big overhaul of players. And we've seen, obviously, the scalps that we've taken this season. At the end of the day, if we look back on this season and we finish 9th or 10th, we can say that we enjoyed this season. It was a good season for the first season that we've had. But ultimately, I think it would feel like a missed opportunity now if we didn't get into the playoffs, just because how well we've looked against those sorts of teams. So he knows what he needs to do in this game. I have full faith that he's going to execute a game plan that will work. It's whether the players play it out. Similarly to Crewe, really, it was the players that let him down individually in that game. Similarly to Wimbledon as well. Once we got past the half-hour mark, he executed the game plan correctly. It was just that the players weren't on it. So the players need to be on it, and as long as they are, we'll win the game.
Fingers crossed. And just to finish off what Neil Critchley had to say, the final quotes in the piece on the Blackpool website, if you want to head over there and have a read, he says the fans can make a real difference over the course of a season and we're really missing them. Hopefully not too long, or start of next season we can get back and get behind Neil Critchley and the team. And he goes on to say, we'll make sure at 3 p.m. on Saturday, our players will give everything for the supporters. And like I said, he spoke really well in that interview and that written piece. So if you want to head over to the website, do have a read of that. And James Husbands also had his say ahead of the game, obviously playing against one of his many former clubs. What we're going to do, we'll kind of do the score predictions and have just a quick reminder of players who have played for both teams or managers who have been at both clubs. So it's score prediction time. And Fleetwood Town fan Josh, he says it's going to be a 1-1 draw tomorrow. Josh, thank you very much for getting that comment in. We also got through Dan BFC 1-1 draw. Gary Ford, he says either a close game 0-0 or Blackpool to win 3-1. Tom, I'll come to you first. Your score predictions for tomorrow's game?
2-0 Blackpool.
You have to think then, didn't you? Think about that. Goal scorers. Can I put you under the spot with that one? You were close. Was it the Charlton game where you said, I think we'll score from a penalty?
I said we'll go 2-0 up and we'll score a penalty. So I was bang on. But I'm going to go, if CJ starts, CJ first goal scorer just before half time. And I think Yates will get the second. I think they'll attack a lot, but I think tomorrow we'll be up for it defensively.
Steve Hutchins says 2-1 to Poole. Richard's got a comment in saying 2-0 to the Seaside as Yates and an own goal. We'll see if that own goal happens next week when you join us on the Friday night preview show. And Paul Phillips Roberts says 2-1 to Blackpool. Sean, I'll come to you next. Your score predictions for this weekend's encounter?
Yeah, I'm going 1-0 Blackpool, not 1-1 for once. I swear to God, if it's 1-1, I'm leaving. 1-0 and Yates to score. But I think quite easily, if one of the teams isn't quite on it in the midfield, it could really run away from either side quite quickly. So if I'm going off the basis that both teams will be right on it.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It's a good game for all fans to watch. Josh says, despite all evidence and form, I think this game's going to be really open. He's gone for a 3-3. The edgy one says 4-1 to Blackpool. Yates with a brace, CJ and Sims with the goal, and a fat goat sack. I always struggle with that one. He says 1-0 to Blackpool. Ray Gregson said, I can see Grayson getting one over us, 1-0 to Fleetwood. So, Ben, you've got one Blackpool fan there saying that Fleetwood can come to Blackpool and pick up all 3 points. So the all-important question, and I'm sure this might be screen recorded if Blackpool do get the win tomorrow. But what are your score prediction, Ben?
I know, I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's going to be a very tough game. I think Blackpool have to win it. I really do believe that if they want to be in the top 6, because they don't really want to be going into the games in hand, having to win them, because the tough games, they can go in with even 5 or 6 points. I'm honest with you. I think it'll be a good game. I think it will be won and lost in, one moment of the game. I like Tom's very bold prediction. I think it's like Paul Merson, isn't it, when he said about the Spurs.
You're going to lose the ball, pass to Harry Kane, pass it to Son. Yeah.
Spot on. But I wish I could do that. I'm going to go 1-1. I think it'll be a tight game that I think Fleetwood could score first in it, but Blackpool will come back. I think they've got a spirit under Neil Critchley. I think they've won 7 out of 13 home games, only lost 3. That's a very good, record. The very, it's 2 good sides defensively strong. So 3-3 would make sense. I'm going to go 1-1. Stop going around the houses. 1-1 draw. And hello to any Blackpool fans at screen recording. So putting it on my feed come 7 o'clock tomorrow night when you beat us 5-0. But it's going to be a tough game, and I just hope we can get at you. But it's a bigger. I always think it's a bigger game for us than it is for you, and that's why you've always beaten us. No pressure, and you're used to the big occasion. We're not. I think tomorrow you have to win it. We're mid-table. Grayson was hitting playoffs, but going to be an interesting one. 1-1.
Nice. The edgy one is back saying battered cod by tea time. Head into the chippy come 5 o'clock. It looks like Stephen says 3-1 to Blackpool. Just Phil Ricky here says, if we don't get into the playoffs, it's a massive failure in such a weak league with us having such a large budget for a change. Nice comment there, Phil. Cliff, he says 2-2 in the game. I'm going to go for a 1-1. I think it's going to be too close to kind of call. I think the key battles in midfield. I just want Sean to witness another draw at Blackpool. Again, Josh says he's one to draw. What's Ben been drinking tonight?
Water.
John says water.
Mate.
I'm sure there's something in there as well.
I wish there was, mate. I wish there was.
I'm sure you're having a strong word before the match.
No, that was Vinto.
What we've got to do before we kind of leave, which we'll come on to the players who play for both teams next. If you want to do I think it was a patrons draw, isn't it? Tom, you've been doing it, but if you want to describe to the listeners a little bit about what we're going to do.
Yeah, so it's just a literal pick of a name from a random wheel generator, which you'll see in a minute with some funky music. That's just for all the patrons of the Seasiders podcast who you can sign up on Seasiders on the link that I'll put in the group in a second. Yeah, so just if you want to join and click the link, it's done on a monthly basis. You get basically exclusive content with the interviews, etc., news, etc. So we're giving away a match pass every single week, courtesy of John, which is great. And we this week decided to do it with a random wheel spin, which I'll share with you now.
It's like the Wheel of Fortune, this.
Absolutely. Can you all do a nice little dance as well? Can you see the screen?
You can screenshot. You can screen record that when I Blackpool win tomorrow. But go on, we'll press the wheel. There's plenty of names there. So as
14. Can you see it? Sorry, that's what I asked.
Yeah.
Can
Lovely.
see it. But I'll go full screen just to make it bigger. So one lucky winner, match pass for tomorrow's game. If you haven't got it,
It'll be right in the middle.
Ooh, not again.
Not again.
There we go. Round of applause for Andy Matthews. There we go. This is live and not pre-recorded. So, well, congratulations to Andy Matthews. You've won yourself a match pass. We'll see. If you've got the game tomorrow, I'm sure we can sort something out for a future away game if needed. So we'll contact you with the details in that and get you in the group chat. So congratulations on that one. Just a few comments here. Fat Goat Snack, first time I've said it right. He says tonight is a great show. Again, congratulations to Andy from us at the Seasiders podcast. But we'll finish off with players who play for both teams. I know a few people like that section and something we enjoy. But Ben, if I was to come to you and to name one player that's played for both teams that comes to mind, who would you say?
Well, there's a lot, but I'm going to go for one, one that's current for you, and it's Chris Maxwell. And in my opinion, when we had him at Fleetwood, he was sublime. He was a top man, top goalkeeper, and I think he's evolved at Blackpool. I think he's one of the best in the league. I think great stop shopper, great leader. He talks well, and obviously had those heroics in the FA Cup. And as soon as you went to the penalties, I knew he'd win you the game. So big fan of his, and I just hope he has not a great game tomorrow.
Yeah, Maxwell's been absolutely superb for Blackpool. So I've just realised we've not uploaded our podcast, the panels predictions for this weekend. So if not, we'll try maybe get them out on social media. I'm trying to do this as well. But Sean, you look at players who play for both. Stephen Craney's been at both clubs. I think Keith Southern had a spell. But if you were to look at one player who's played for both Blackpool and Fleetwood recent years, what name would you come up with?
Yeah, I think you've named some good players. I think did Barry Ferguson go on loan there for a spell?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So Barry Ferguson for me, as much as his allegiances elsewhere are probably last desired for me, but he's that player that I love watching a midfielder that just knows how to pass the ball and knows how to shuttle a midfield. And I think David Vaughan did that so well for us. I think Barry Ferguson was just that next mould of him that we needed at the time. I thought he was a great addition to us, and a player that I think we'll look back on quite fondly as a player, perhaps not as a manager, but as a player.
Again, Stephen Dobby's one that the edgy ones got in. Tom, a fantastic player, which we've discussed a few times on the podcast. A player I would have loved to have signed in the Premier League season. Just a quick one here, Ben, just for you. John Scott says, good luck for the rest of the season after tomorrow. Nappers always top when you're on the podcast. So great feedback and appreciate that one, John. If I've not got time to find the videos and save them, but we'll get our kind of things. I know Nick did his hair for the thing. No pointy hair this time, so he'll be good. I'm not sharing it with you. But again, a huge thank you to everyone for listening to the Seasiders podcast this evening. I know there's football on and so many other things you can be doing, but it's much appreciated you guys joining us three, and obviously our guests which come on the show. So a huge thank you for them and the comments, and also those who got their team selections in for tomorrow's game. I'm just going to put a few more names on the list here that people have sent in. Chris Long, he was there. Alan Wright as well, which is again so much. It does make the show when people are getting the comments in. So a huge thank you. But from us, Tom, it's been fantastic again. And again, we just hope that the Tangerine side of the Fylde Coast comes away with the 3 points tomorrow.
Yeah, there'll be no third tier on Monday if Fleetwood win. No, it's been a great show. Really enjoyable. So yeah, fingers crossed for 3 points tomorrow.
Sean, once again, mate, great to have you on. And obviously you're going into the stats and diving into that side. It's been fantastic. And just like Tom, we'll be hoping for the 3 points tomorrow, won't we?
Yeah, just anything but a 1-1, to be quite honest. Else I will not be back here ever again.
You won't be back at Blackpool, I don't think, for the rest of the season. And Ben as well, again, fantastic to have you on the show as ever. We know you're taking part with Tom on the third tier podcast on a Monday, which is live at 8 p.m, which we'll keep sharing. And I believe that's going really well, isn't it? Is it nearing 600 followers on social media?
Yeah, it's doing really well, isn't it? And thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I always love coming on speaking about football. I don't normally like the reaction show after when you're beating us, but that should be fun. But yeah, the third show's going really well. I'm really enjoying doing it with Tom. You know, good hosts and different ideas. So hopefully long may that continue.
Definitely, mate. Again, from all of us, if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, do like our pages, do subscribe. It does make a massive difference on the algorithms of each social media. So please do us a help with a thumbs up, hit that notification bell, so when any show goes live, your phone will be notified. But from all of us at the Seasiders Podcast, good night.